Welcome to part 4 of the readout. Let's get right back to where we left off. WSU acknowledges that some of the information available may contain language or images about subjects intended for adult audiences. Some information available over the internet may even be illegal to transmit and possess. Examples of this include, but are not limited to, child porn, illegal export of software, distribution of copyrighted material, distribution of chain or pyramid schemes, phishing, sending of unsolicited bulk email, spam, or other fraudulent and questionable activity. The apartment agreement states that inappropriate use of computers on the WSU provided network can result in the loss of network privileges. WSU also retains the right to monitor usage of ResNet and retains the right to terminate access to ResNet immediately and without notice if the network is abused or used in an inappropriate manner. WSU requires that all users comply with all applicable laws and university policies when connected to ResNet. It would be a violation of WSU policies as well as Title VI to use ResNet to facilitate discrimination, sexual harassment, or stalking. The apartment agreement also prohibited Koberger from possessing any weapons, including knives, in his apartment. Weapons of any kind, including pistols, rifles, air pew-pews, knives, which they say having a blade longer than 4 inches that are not for culinary purposes, which that was going to be my question because we have kitchens, or having a swing or switch blade. Slingshots, crossbows, or martial arts tools may not be stored or used in apartments. WSU explicitly retained the right to have an agent of WSU enter Koberger's apartment at any reasonable hour for a purpose of inspection, and WSU retained the right to enter the apartment without notice. Failure to abide by and adhere to the rules and regulations in the apartment agreement or failure to abide by other WSU policies and regulations could result in termination of the apartment agreement and removal from the premises. Similarly, repeatedly disturbing other occupants or violating WSU policies could result in a termination of the apartment agreement and removal from the premises. When Koberger arrived at WSU in the fall of 2022, the WSU Police Department was consumed by a university investigation into its own long and sordid history of tolerating and, in fact, fostering serious sexual misconduct in its own ranks. WSU employs and operates its own police force, which is intended to be a critically important bulwark when it comes to protecting students and the community from sexual harassment, stalking, and dangerous predators. However, prior to Koberger being hired by WSU and arriving in the Pullman-Moscow community, the WSU Police Department had a long, troubling, and sordid history of tolerating and, in fact, fostering inappropriate sexual behavior in its own ranks and discouraging complete and accurate reporting of occurrences of such misconduct. When Koberger arrived in the Pullman-Moscow community for the 2022 fall semester, they just repeat again that WSU was roiling from sexual misconduct allegations and a related investigation that resulted in the resignations of WSU Police Department senior leadership, which, side comment, that is just horrible and insane, especially on a college campus. Continuing on. The scandal and investigation that consumed the WSU Police Department in the fall of 2022 was not the first such scandal. In 2007, WSU's police chief, Steve Hansen, was demoted from his position after a WSU internal auditor's investigation concluded that Hansen had viewed emails containing inappropriate content on his university computer, forwarded those emails to other WSU police, and invited other members of WSU police to view them. They then show an article that states of Hansen stepping down as the chief of police. In 2011, federal education officials fined WSU $82,500 over a separate campus safety incident that occurred in 2007 involving multiple sexual assaults. They attached another article about that safety issue. Federal education officials completed an investigation of WSU's campus safety statistics and determined that WSU had not properly reported 2 sexual assaults in violation of the Clery Act. Federal law requires campus notification of potential threats to students and employees. Federal officials charged WSU with failing to properly disclose forcible schmex crime statistics and to properly classify offenses in its annual security report. The charges arose out of two incidents in 2007. In one incident that occurred in August 2007, WSU police labeled the offense as a domestic dispute, even though investigators found it included a rape perpetuated by the friend of the victim's husband. In the second incident, a January 2007 police report of sexual assault was relabeled as unfounded by a WSU police records manager without authority to make such changes. WSU did not dispute the findings of the federal investigation. In early August 2022, the police chief, assistant chief, and captain of the WSU Police Department resigned from their positions to avoid investigation into yet another incident of serious sexual misconduct involving a WSU police officer. WSU initiated a disciplinary investigation into the WSU Police Department for failing to advise university leadership of a 2020 departmental investigation involving a WSU police officer alleged to have engaged in sexual activities on campus and while on duty. Joint disciplinary investigations were initiated by the Office of Compliance and Civil Rights and the Human Resource Services Office. The investigation revealed that in December 2020, a WSU police officer notified WSU Police Department command staff that they learned of a possible non-consensual sexual activity between another WSU police officer and a victim on campus. The allegations of improper sexual activities included that the WSU police officer had schmecks with the victim in the presidential suite at the Martin Stadium and at the WSU Observatory while he was on duty as a WSU police officer. The offending officer told departmental staff that he was willing to identify the name of the woman involved, but the WSU Police Department investigators said that was not necessary and then misleadingly wrote in their internal report that they could not substantiate the allegations without talking to the victim whose identity they did not have. Despite being advised of these incidents, the WSU Police Command staff failed to advise the CCR as required by WSU policies. Instead, the WSU Police Department attempted to keep the incidents internal and claimed to ultimately be unable to locate any witness willing to file a complaint against the offending officer. Despite that, the WSU Police Department offender did face internal disciplinary action for misconduct while on duty. In March 2022, WSU administrators learned about the 2020 incident and the WSU Police Department's investigation that was previously unreported to administration. Investigations were then initiated by the WSU CCR and HRS and the WSU Police Department. Command staff were advised that disciplinary proceedings had been initiated against them based on the investigation's findings, that they exhibited gross misconduct, incompetence, and neglect of duty in their response to claims of sexual misconduct involving the WSU officer. All of the WSU Police Department command staff then announced their resignations and retirement before the disciplinary process concluded. In response to the resignations, WSU President Kirk Schultz stated, "These are positions of great public trust, and WSU will not tolerate this kind of behavior nor the negligence of departmental command staff." WSU then hired the retired chief of police, the city of Pullman's police department, to serve as interim chief of police of the WSU Police Department. The offending WSU officer, however, did not resign, and WSU continued to conduct a formal investigation. WSU's CCR then proceeded to spend months during the 2022 fall semester investigating the allegations of serious sexual misconduct of its WSU police officer. The offending WSU police officer admitted to having schmecks while on duty. The WSU investigation found that the offending officer engaged in predatory grooming behavior while in a supervisory role at the university, made sexually explicit comments to coworkers, subjected coworkers to non-consensual physical contact, and engaged in sexual activities while on duty and on university property. WSU records also reveal that the WSU police had a history of sexual misconduct while on duty directed toward fellow employees, including student interns. The offending WSU police officer had a reputation of engaging in sexual activities around the Pullman campus, including the presidential suite at Martin Stadium and the WSU Observatory. Fellow WSU police officers also told investigators that they had concerns about the offending officer making comments about student interns such as, quote, Can you have them do that, a calisthenics movement again, and, quote, got any hot interns this year? The offending WSU officer also sent inappropriate pictures to a former employee and used a ringtone on his cell phone associated with a pornography website. The offending WSU officer also groped a newly hired female employee of the WSU Police Department who complained to a fellow officer. Despite reporting that incident, it was not documented by WSU or disclosed to CCR. If you're not fuming at this point, I mean, this is insane. In early 2022, the offending WSU police officer resigned from the university. Ultimately, the investigation determined that the WSU Police Department command fostered an environment that discouraged reporting sexual misconduct. The serious sexual misconduct allegations and the ensuing months-long investigation and findings regarding the WSU Police Department during the 2022 fall semester substantially preoccupied WSU administrators and in particular the WSU CCR office. As discussed in detail below, around the same time period, WSU's CCR office had received numerous formal complaints about Koperger's discriminatory, harassing, stalking, and predatory behavior, but had not acted on those complaints or even met with or spoken to Koperger about him. WSU brings Koperger to the Pullman Moscow community and quickly learns of his threatening, stalking, and predatory behavior. Now it's going to go into some more specifics about Koperger. So I'm actually let's do that in part 5 because it's going to go into more details there. So I will see you